إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. إنه من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله والصلاة والسلام على عبده المصطفى ورسوله المجتبى وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على نهجهم واقتفى آثارهم إلى يوم الدين آمين. أما بعد أيها الناس فأوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل. فتقوى الله سبحانه وتعالى طريق الفلاح وسلام النجاح وعنوان بأهله وعنوان الصلاح كما قال الله في القرآن فاتقوا الله يا أولي الألباب لعلكم تفلحون. وفي سورة الحجرات يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. فيا عباد الله إن الدين عند الله الإسلام. الآية فإنه دين الحق دين الإسلام. والفطرة كما قال الله هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله ولو كره المشركون. الآية لأجل ذلك فأقم وجهك للدين حنيفا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. وفي حديث عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصوم حتى نقول لا يفطر ويفطر حتى نقول لا يصوم فما رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم استكمل صيام شهر إلا رمضان وما رأيته أفطر صياما منه في شعبان. رواه البخاري. Obedient servants of Allah, brothers and sisters in Islam, I wish to start today's khutbah in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I seek refuge in Allah against shaitan, the accused, and may Allah direct the khutbah from the speaker to the listeners. May it be a beneficial message today, inshallah. Allah is one without equal. Allah is one without counterpart. Allah is one without assistance. Allah is one without point of starting. Allah is one without point of termination. Allah is He who has sent messengers to mankind, and He has sprung or terminated the chains of prophethood, the coming of Maulana Mustafa Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one that came in the hours of Asri, the time when no other messenger will be sent to mankind. He delivered the message, he completed the message that started from the time of Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and nothing was missing in the message. He was not miserly in words, he was not miserly in actions, and he was not miserly in interactions with people. Everything we need about this thing, the Prophet ﷺ said it, and when it's not directly said by the Prophet, Sahabas acted and he gives approval of it. Therefore, nothing is left unattended to as far as our deen is concerned. May the peace and salutations of Allah be upon him, his households, the companions, and the generation of Muslims who have resolved to tread the path of the truth, and may Allah count us among those that will benefit from the message. Inshallah Kareem, our khutbah today, Allah Ta'ala Siyam fi Shahr Sha'ban. We have entered Sha'ban, and by counting today is 1. Even if it's doubtful, one of the responsibilities of all is that as from the last 2 months, we should have started monitoring the moon. If the first day is doubtful, the 13th, 14th, and 15th day is always a clear sign to enable us to know precisely whether the date we have chosen as the first day of the month is right or not, because the brightest moon appears on the 14th day. Therefore, when you follow it, you have the full moon and the brightest at that point. Therefore, if you have missed it, you will be able to correlate it. And if you have done it to Roger and we are doing it to Shaban, by the time we get to Ramadan, we will not have problem. Even if we have problem with the cloud, the tradition of the Prophet that says we should count Shaban to the 30, that will enable us to count our 30 without missing the date. Allah is He who has chosen a different act of ibadah, and He has put it in different months. Some of these ibadat are compulsory, while some are just voluntary. Like the month of Ramadan is well known. That month, the compulsory fasting is inscribed therein. And the Hajj, the months of Hajj, are also known. Therefore, specific worship in this month. But there are other months. That is the blessing of the lunar months. There is no month, no lunar month that does not have either compulsory specific assignment or ibadah to carry out therein or not. Minimally, there will be 3 fasting in every month. That is the uniqueness of the lunar month. Today, like I said, is the 1st of Shaban, 1434 AH. And in this month, like that tradition of Nana Aisha, which we recited in the Arabic part of the khutbah, it was narrated by the mother of faithful, Aisha radiallahu anha, said, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is such a person that he gives fasting, and they will assume that he will continue to fast for all days without breaking the fast. And his life is also full of other time when he will continue to break fast. He will not fast continuously, and he will be wondering, is there any other regulation to instruct the prophet that he should not fast again? That is how the life of the prophet was. And it said, he never found in the life of the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a month where he fasted most except Ramadan, other than the month of Shaban. That is to say that the month he kept fast most was Shaban, after the compulsory month of Ramadan, that he cannot break anything from that fasting. The fasting in Shaban, there are so many traditions of the Prophet ﷺ that were narrated concerning that. And some will find information like Kana Yasumu Shaban illa qalila, that the Prophet ﷺ used to fast Shaban except a little day of Shaban, meaning he almost fast all. And there are other narrations like that of Abu Huraira that informed us that the Prophet will never fast more than the 14th or 15th day of Shaban. Putting all the informations in the Sahih together shows that the Prophet ﷺ fasts most in Shaban. We also have to mention, like it was mentioned when Rajab was being discussed, the fasting in Shaban is sunnah, is not compulsory. With or without, one can still meet the pleasure of Allah and enter paradise. But it's one of the tatawah that is highly recommended. And what we are saying is that in Shaban, it is the practice of the Prophet ﷺ that he keeps fasting most. The significance of fasting other than Ramadan can be seen from some narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, like this one. Man sama yawman fi sabilillahi 'azza wa jalla zahzaha Allahu wajhahu 'anil nar lidhalika al-yawm 70 harfan muttafaq alayhi. This hadith, the Prophet was reported to have said, whoever fasts a day, just one day fast, and is examining if the intention behind the observation of that one day fasting is to please Allah, for the pleasure of Allah, not other than that. It said is sufficient. Allah will distance that person away from hellfire by a distance of about 70 cubits. In another tradition, to show that whatever you keep as fasting in this month, it is meritorious and you have reward. Like in general terms of fasting, and Maulana Mustafa Salam was reported to have said, "As-siyamu junnatun minan nar, ka junnatu ahadikum minal kitab." He said, fasting is like a shield from hellfire, and that is like you are shielding. You create a shield or barrier in a war front. The shield you use to protect yourself, like armor wear, from against the attack. That is the same way the sun is. This is generally to all forms of voluntary fasting. Obedient servants of Allah, the aforementioned hadiths are general to the importance of meritorious fast, but the significance and wisdom inherent in fasting in Shaban are mentioned in the hadith of Usama ibn Zaid, as reported by Imam Ahmad and An-Nasai. And Usama ibn Zaid radiyallahu anhu qala كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصوم الأيام يسرد حتى نقول لا يفطر ويفطر الأيام حتى لا يكاد يصوم إلا يومين من الجمعة إن كان في صيامه وإلا صامهما ولم يكن يصوم من الشهر ما يصوم من شعبان فقلت يا رسول الله إنك تصوم حتى لا تكاد تفطر وتفطر حتى لا تكاد تصوم إلا يومين إن دخل في صيامك وإلا صمتهما قال أي يومين قلت يوم الاثنين ويوم الخميس قال ذلك يومان تعرض فيهما الأعمال على رب العالمين وأحب أن يعرض أعمالي وأنا صائم قلت ولم أراك تصوم من شهور ما تصوم من شعبان قال ذاك شهر يغفل الناس عنه بين رجب ورمضان وهو شهر ترفع الأعمال فيه إلى رب العالمين عز وجل فأحب أن يرفع عملي وأنا صائم صدق الرسول. This hadith summarizes the meritorious fasting of the Prophet ﷺ, the sunnatic fasting other than the fasting in the month of Ramadan. In this hadith, which was reported by Usama ibn Zaid, Sahih, you find it in Sahih An-Nasai and Imam Ahmad. The fasting of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was divided into two. The one he keeps every day. Like the first hadith of Aisha, the first part of it narrated the same, that the Prophet continued to fast as if he would not break, and when he started breaking, he continued to break as if he would not fast again. But the other aspect which I want us to pay attention to is the fact that he fasts on Monday and Thursday. And he was asked, someone asked him that, why do you fast Monday and Thursday? Even when you break your fast as if you will not fast. When it is Monday, you keep Monday. When it is Thursday, you keep Thursday. Why is that so? Then he replied, he said, don't you know that is the day our deeds on weekly basis are wrapped up and taken to Allah. Your weekly deed are computed and the account is rendered on weekly basis. It is taken on Thursday to Allah, and he preferred that he increase in meritorious act when his deed will be presented before Allah. He said, okay, but I discovered that you fast in other months, but in the month of Shaban, that is when you keep fast most. Why is that so? The Prophet also replied, I fast more in the month of Shaban because that is the month that the annual deed, like you have CGPA, your cumulative that it is worked after the second semester exam. The same way, it is a month of Shaban. All these are brought together and they are taken to Allah for our yearly deed. And I want that when my deed will be cumulated annually, I want to be in the mood of fasting. Obedient servants of Allah summarizes the tradition, the sunnatic fasting of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, why he fasts weekly and how he fasts and on annually. Ibadallah, fasting has great physiological and spiritual benefits. Scientifically, taking heavy meals constantly dulls the mind and suppresses the senses. Fasting, therefore, distances one from excessive eating and keep both mind and sense alert. Consequently, one is able to worship Allah with the required consciousness and the right frame of mind. Heavy meals dull the mind and make the body sluggish. Excessive eating makes one to stand up for prayer with laziness attitude, and that is one of the characteristics of hypocrites. About Allah, only a well-fed stomach will whisper to mind to satisfy other loves and desires. A hungry man will not think of committing sin. A hungry man will not think of committing adultery, because his primary concern will be how to feed the stomach, how to satisfy the stomach. Therefore, when the soul is deprived, or when the stomach is deprived of food, then the soul is spiritually alert and is more conscious of his Lord. And even in some other religious issues, Maulana Mustafa had informed us, even in Quranic verses, where the either punishment or the atonement of mistakes is a recommended fasting. And we take an example from when the Prophet was addressing youth, and he said, Ya ma'ashara shabab, man istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj, fa innahu adaddu lil-basar wa ahsanu lil-farj. He addressed the congregation of youth and said, O congregation of youth, whoever has the strength, the means to marry, let him marry. Because through marriage, then it will lower your gaze, it cools your eyes, and you'll be free from committing sin. And it keeps your private part. And the tail end of that hadith now informs us the significance, how you can substitute fasting for the same position of marriage. Because someone said, but who amongst you cannot afford the cost of marriage or not in position to marry, then let him keep fast. Therefore, that's voluntary fasting, it's not compulsory. But that will keep you, will refrain you from indecency, from excesses. If you choose to keep fast in Shaban, you should also be alive to the rules and regulations governing the observation of fasting in Shaban. One of which the Prophet says, "La tuqaddimu Ramadana bisawmi yawmin aw yawmayn." That when you keep fast, no matter how much it will be in Shaban, you should not keep fast to the extent of not living at least 1, 2, or minimally a day to Ramadan. That means 29 or 38 of Rajab of Shaban must be left without keeping fasting in it. There is an exception to that, and this exception can only be found for those who have habitual days of fasting, customary fasting. You are used to every Thursday you fast, and every Thursday coincides with 28 or 29. Fasting on that day is allowed in Islam, based on the tradition of Abu Huraira and Abi Huraira radiyallahu anhu, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qala, la tuqaddimu Ramadan bi yawmin aw yawmayn illa man kana yasumu sawman falyasumuhu, muttafaq alayh. Sometimes said in this narration that nobody should fast throughout Shaban except he leaves 1 or 2 days, except for those who have habitual fasting days that can keep that. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. نحمد الله سبحانه وتعالى عما يشركون ونشكره ونؤمن ونتوكل عليه ونصلي ونسلم على خير خلق الله سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن سلك مسلكهم ومن تبعهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى: وما آتاكم الرسول فخذوه وما نهاكم عنه فانتهوا واتقوا الله إن الله شديد العقاب. صدق الله العظيم. In this second part of the khutbah, I seek refuge in Allah against Shaitan, their cause, and conclude this khutbah by letting us know that do not make Shaban controversial. Please. It is voluntary. It's not a must. And because we are aware there are some of us we never do, or we turn all issues to be controversial. It's not Ramadan. If you don't fast, you are not condemned to hell. If you fast, it will aid your entrance to paradise. That is all we have said. And when you quote, please don't quote out of context. May Allah guide and guard our thoughts. The fasting is good. It's a preparation for the greater fasting in Ramadan. If you start keeping fasting now, the soul and the body will have been adjusted to fasting. And making mistake when you get to Ramadan, I've forgotten that I'm fasting. This is Ramadan. Eating, doing all sorts of things will not have been there. You will have tailored your life, and you will have taught yourself how to keep away from the dose that can betray fasting. Therefore, Ramadan that time, from day one, you will be able to have the full reward of Ramadan. We also want to mention that those things that are recommended in Ramadan are also recommended. It's not only fasting. Let us increase in our recitation of our Quran. Some of us, since the last Ramadan till now, some have not been reading, and some may not have completed one Quran for almost 10 months now after the last Ramadan. Don't wait till Ramadan comes. Let us take our Quran and start familiarizing ourselves with it. Let us let Quran be our companion, so that we be one of those whom Allah described as Ahlullah, those who will be the household of Allah. Allah commands 3 things, and He forbids us of 3 things. In Allah ya'muru bil 'adl, Allah commands justice, wal ihsan, goodness, wa ita'i dhil qurba, be kind to kinsmen, wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i, and He forbids all indecency, wal munkar, abomination, wal baghi, destruction. Ya'izukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. A chance you will learn piety. Let us pray. اللهم أقسم لنا من خشيتك ما يحول بيننا وبين معاصيك ومن اليقين ما يهون علينا مصائب الدنيا ومتعنا بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقوتنا ما أحييتنا واجعل الوارث منا واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا وانصرنا على من عادانا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا تسلط علينا من لا يخاف فينا ولا يرحمنا. وصلى الله على نبيك محمد وعلى آله وسلم تسليم. آمين. أقم الصلاة.
فإن تسوية الصفوف من تمام الصلاة. صفوا صفكم يرحمكم الله.